You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey there, Young and the Restless fans. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt. I want to talk about what Phyllis Summers is going to do because she's under a very tight deadline and she has got tasks assigned to her by her blackmailer. And I'm wondering if she is going to show up and wreck Jack and Diane's wedding, whether she shows up and crashes or she's doing stuff from behind the scenes. Time is running out. So this coming Friday, which is July 28th, is the kickoff of Diane and Jack's wedding day. I don't think it's all going to take place then. I think it's going to leak into next week. But what happens is this does not leave Phyllis a lot of time to meet Tucker's demands to warm up to Jack and split him and Diane up. So we have some ideas of how she might be scrambling to stay out of prison and to meet Tucker's blackmail demands. We're going to dig into that. If you haven't already, please reach down, click subscribe so you don't miss any of our Y&R updates. We'd love it if you would click that notification bell so you don't miss anything. It'll tell you there's a new video to watch. All right. So it's going to be on Thursday, July 27th, season 50, episode 209. And the YR official spoilers say that Phyllis gets some FaceTime with Jack Abbott. But, you know, it feels like her talking to him is way too little, way too late. There's nothing that she can say to Jack to make him stop loving Diane at this point. There's nothing she can say to Jack to make him not marry Diane at this point. And then the next day after that is when Diane's dreams come true and she's telling everybody, I'm getting married today. So the bottom line is Tucker has given Phyllis kind of an undoable task and of, you know, splitting them, targeting Diane, this and that. And before Phyllis could convince Heather to get the EMT Carson into protective custody, Tucker hid him away. Tucker is holding all the cards and Phyllis is facing prison or doing what he says, but what he's saying feels like it's impossible to do. So she's in this rock and hard place situation. At the same time, it's hard to feel sorry for Phyllis because she caused this whole situation. I mean, you can say the root cause is Diane coming back, but other people in town hated Diane and didn't do what Phyllis did. You know, even other people that were arrested in an aftermath of Diane's fake death. So, and what's interesting is, you know, Tucker's just being Tucker. He's a villain. He's a fun villain and he's a sketchy dude, but he's still a villain. And so, you know, she's dealing with someone worse than her and trying to manage him. And he's not manageable. He is like trying to herd a wet, angry cat. So the day after this chat with Jack, I'm sure that she is going to find Jack less than forgiving and it's time for Diane's big day. So Phyllis is out of time. She's going to be desperate. And the big question is, what can she do? I mean, yes, Carson the EMT is a liar, but he was going to lie on her behalf. And if he comes and tells the truth, she's done for because he didn't witness her doing anything with Stark or Stark doing anything to her. He witnessed them being accomplices. So if he tells the truth, which is what a witness is supposed to do, she is, as we put it in a video yesterday, just totally effed. That's the deal right now, is that Phyllis is effed and she's got to find a way out. But this is Phyllis. She always finds a way out. So it feels like Phyllis's only move to buy more time is to crash and trash Jack and Diane's wedding, to do something to try and stop it. But will she do it? Can she somehow change Tucker's mind and get more time? It doesn't seem likely, and she can't hope to get any help from Ashley. Ashley's unsympathetic. She knows what Tucker is doing. She doesn't care. And she basically says Phyllis gets what she gets because she's the one who brought Jeremy to town when they all told her not to. But we do have a few things in mind. We have a few ideas, 5 ideas, of how Phyllis could try and ruin the wedding and make Tucker happy or find another way to save her own butt. So the very first thing we're thinking about is fire. Remember, back in the day, Diane set fire to the pool house years ago to frame Phyllis. And they have mentioned it a couple of times before while Phyllis and Diane were bickering. So maybe Phyllis could flip this on its ear, reverse it around, and do the same thing and start a fire to wreck the wedding, to sidetrack it, to distract it. If there's fire trucks everywhere and part of the house is on fire, they can't get married. So fire could be Phyllis's friend. The second thing that she could do is she could kidnap the bride or the groom. Yes, that's extreme, but if Phyllis is desperate enough, she'd do it. I mean, let's face it, there's not a lot Phyllis won't do if she's desperate enough. Maybe if she kidnaps one of them, she can get them alone. If it's Jack, she could try and seduce him. I mean, it sounds awful and ill-advised. Unless she drugs him, he's not going to fall for anything. But by kidnapping either the bride or the groom, at least that does stop the wedding. And it would, in fact, buy more time as an extreme solution. But again, we're down to Phyllis freaking out, and she knows she's got to figure something out to mollify Tucker. All right, the third thing she could do, maybe she could convince Adam to help her. Adam Newman offered her a job. He likes to stir the pot. He is a friend of Jack's, but he's not a particular fan of Diane's. And Adam, he can be an agent of chaos. So maybe if she says, hey, I'll take the job if you'll help me with this, because she's done dirty work for him before. She did some hacking when he was trying to take Dark Horse from Nick. And, Nick was her ex-husband. She shouldn't really have been helping with that, but she did. So maybe Adam can help her. I mean, he doesn't like Tucker at all, so he might not be a bad person for her to talk to. And they did recently have a conversation with that job offer. Maybe they'll circle back around. All right. The fourth thing she could do is she could just kidnap Tucker, because he's the one pulling the strings and holding Carson. So rather than kidnapping Jack or Diane, why not just take Tucker and just torment him until he hands over Carson? I mean, it's not like Tucker doesn't deserve a little bit of torment, right? I think it'd be fun. Even if she just duct taped him to a chair and tickled him, I think it'd be really funny. The bottom line is Phyllis has almost no allies aside from Michael, who's out of town checking on his mom, Glow. And we have, Lauren's her friend, but then there's a spoiler about Lauren losing it and snapping on someone this week, likely Phyllis. And, Summer and Daniel love their mom, but they're not going to go to extremes again to help her. All right, we have one last idea how Phyllis could pull things out of the fire at the very last minute before everything blows up in her face. But before we talk about that, if you haven't already, please click subscribe so you don't miss any of our Y&R updates. Click that bell so you get a notification. And if you enjoyed this video, we'd appreciate if you would click a like. We love positive feedback, and we love your comments. Drop us lots of comments. If you have things you want to see us do videos on, feedback, drop it in there. I love to look at comments. I read all of them. I try to reply to as many as I can, but I definitely read them all. All right. So our fifth and final idea is that Phyllis could throw herself on Diane's mercy. If Phyllis goes to Diane with a sincere apology and reveals that Tucker is blackmailing her to target Diane, Diane might actually help her out. Diane might actually convince Jack to agree to help Phyllis out, because right now what they know is the real enemy they need to be focusing on is Ashley trying to destroy Jabot and Tucker helping her do it. So Phyllis really isn't the problem right now. And I think they both already suspect that somehow Phyllis is going to get out of this. So I feel like this is her best chance if she goes to Diane on her wedding day and pulls her aside and is like, look, I know I was real crappy to you, and this is unforgivable, but understand that I was super angry about what you did years ago. Can we let this be bygones? Because we have a common enemy now. Nothing brings people together like a common enemy, and that common enemy is Tucker and also Ashley. So they could actually maybe pretend to split, pretend to argue, and then they could deploy Phyllis as this double agent against Ashley and Tucker. To me, this seems like the best shot she has to save herself, but it's Phyllis. So she might just go burn something down and kidnap someone. But what I really, really, really hope is that she throws herself on Diane's mercy and that Diane cuts her a break, because Diane does care about Summer, and, there has been a lot of back and forth. And if they could bury this hatchet and take down Ashley and Tucker, would totally be worth making peace with her, right? What do you guys think?
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.